Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace. Peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So, good Saturday morning to you all. As I announced, Mother willing, next Saturday by this time, there will be a biventricular pacemaker and defibrillator installed. Now that may mean that there won't be any Saturday class. I'll just have to see what they tell me about what I should do. I suspect they're not going to want any exertion, but we'll see. We'll see what they say. The instructions are supposedly already on my kp.org message board. So we'll see what the doctor says. But in any event, here we are for this Saturday's class.
We wish you speedy recovery, Brother Shankara.
I'm sorry, what did you say, Haima?
Recovery afterwards. Wish you speedy recovery afterwards.
Oh, thank you, dear. Yes, well, it's only a 2-hour procedure at most, an hour and a half to 2 hours. Then you're in the recovery room, and then you go home.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm absolutely astounded.
Oh. Namaste, Brother Shankar. I didn't get what kind of procedure is it?
It's they will next Friday. The procedure is scheduled for noon to put in a biventricular pacemaker and defibrillator to correct for the asynchronous heartbeat and the atrial fibrillation.
Oh, okay.
It's one little machine about the thickness of 3 silver dollars and about the size of a silver dollar with just a little bulge on the bottom of that. Amazing. And they connect it to the heart through a vein that runs to the heart through this part of the shoulder. And,
Yes, we'll be holding prayers for your
Thank you, dear. Yes, well, as I say, Mother willing, all that will happen. And if indeed that does go forward on Friday, it's not likely that we will have a Saturday class. And as you may know, the Sunday after that, we have an open forum on bhakti. So there's no strain involved with that. So anyway, let's plunge forward with Swami Prabhavananda's talk on mind and its control. He's talking about how we discover the Atman. And he says, in this connection, all our prayers are granted. Do you think there is a God way out there to grant them? No, this freedom of the Atman within yourself is the grace of God. Let me reread that. Do you think there's a God way out there to grant your prayers? No. This freedom of the Atman to grant your prayers is this freedom of the Atman within yourself is the grace of God. And the Atman is Christ, Krishna, Buddha, Ramakrishna, Mother, Kali, Brahman, or Allah. One reality given so many names. The regular practice of, well, before we go on, he's about to talk about practices now. Any comment or question about this business of the Atman within us being the source of grace and the power that grants prayer? Any comment or question about that? That there is nothing outside of us that grants prayer. There may be other people who appear to be outside of us, who are praying for us, who are offering their energy and their strong volition that this be done. But this is only an appearance. There is no such thing as separation. So this volition is the same thing as what the Swami is describing. Any comments or questions?
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Ima?
Finally, he led us to the truth of God. We slowly got to that point.
Well, you know, the thing about the Swami is
Mountain.
he always develops an idea.
Yes, he did.
He may just say it straight out, but then he will begin to develop the idea so that you understand why he can say it straight out.
He beautifully did, Brother Shankara. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to the Swami. Yes, indeed. And now he's going to tell us a little bit about how to reveal this truth within us. But before, anything to add to what Haima said or any question you have? All right. The regular practice of concentration and meditation is necessary. The key word here is regular. The regular practice of concentration and meditation is necessary. Now, that's not dogma. It's not like something that you have to believe. It's just the Swami's assertion based on his knowledge and his experience. And you can see any number of parallels in the world of our everyday reality. I often use the examples of a tennis, if you wanted to learn to play tennis well, or you wanted to become a chess master. You couldn't do it if you practiced an hour a day, an hour once a week. You'd gain a little skill, but you certainly wouldn't gain anything like the mastery necessary to play tennis well or be a chess master. The same exact thing is true of spiritual practice. The regular practice of concentration and meditation is necessary. We find in the Gita, patiently, little by little, a man must free himself from all mental distractions with the aid of the intelligent will. And this is an absolute mantra with Swami Sridharananda. Instead of saying little by little, he says slowly and slowly. It is by the aid of the intelligent will, slowly and slowly, you purify your waking awareness, your active subconscious, and ultimately your latent subconscious or unconscious mind. So we find in the Gita, quote, patiently, little by little, a man must free himself from all mental distractions with the aid of the intelligent will. With the aid of the intelligent will. The intelligent will is the buddhi. We gain access to this intelligent will by the practice of concentration. You see, the mind will be distracted. Bring it back again and again and again. The mind will be distracted. It is the nature of the mind to be influenced by the breezes of the gunas blowing across your mental impressions, activating those mental impressions, and they create distractions, memories, projections, likes, dislikes. All that just spontaneously pops up. The mind will be distracted. Bring it back again and again and again. To clean an ink bottle, you pour in clear water and continue to pour until the ink comes out and the bottle is filled with pure water. Our subconscious mind and unconscious mind are like that ink bottle. And amen to that. Our subconscious, which I'm referring to as your active subconscious, and the unconscious mind, which it's not really unconscious, you see. That's why I call it the latent subconscious. The consciousness is there. So he's saying our subconscious and unconscious mind are like that ink bottle. Pour in clear water, the thought of God. Struggle to keep your mind fixed on God. Now, how do you do that? How do you struggle to keep your mind fixed on God? Well, there are many strategies in the scriptures. Krishna outlines them step by step in the Gita. Recollectedness. Try to associate, as Swami Prabhavananda says, give everything a Godward turn. When you're having to do with numbers, associate them with the divine presence. One, the number one, the one. Two, manifestation, the first beginning of divine manifestation. Three, the flower of manifestation. The one and the two have, as the Christian mystics often say, they have made passionate love and have produced their child, manifestation. Four, the first doubling of the mother number. This is the fruits. Five, change, so on and so forth. You can do it with anything. That's just a technique for doing it with numbers. So if you want to know these techniques, they're described so beautifully by Krishna in the Gita, by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras, replacing lower samskaras with higher samskaras and so on. So this is what this Swami means. Struggle to keep your mind fixed on God. Learn these techniques, these tactics, to associate everything that you experience within your waking awareness. Slowly and slowly, you learn, if you apply yourself and if you wish. It's not an imperative. This is not dogma. This is just what Swami Vivekananda is pointing to when he says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal of human life is to manifest that divinity. Do it through work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, one or more or all of these, and be free. Well, every one of those techniques, work, karma yoga, worship, bhakti yoga, psychic control, raja yoga, philosophy, jnana yoga, every one of those paths has its techniques for keeping the mind fixed on the divine presence. And of course, elementally, fundamentally, the practice of concentration, which may lead to meditation, is a powerful way to not only do this, but to discover within yourself those techniques that are most congenial and work for you. So anything at all about this business, about struggling to keep your mind fixed on God? Anything to add? Anything to ask?
I think, Brother Shankar, I have a comment.
Yes, dear?
The more we meditate continuously, it opens the door for our own wisdom that was hiding all this time that we did not know. The insight, wisdom, whatever you call, we get access to that. The door opens slowly.
Yes.
That's where
That's exactly it. It doesn't come from outside.
exactly it's inner. It's inner.
It is already resident within us. It is a process of discovery, of
Yes.
uncovering what is already there. That's what I meant when I said, if you practice concentration and meditation, you will find spontaneously, and it's actually kind of fun to discover those techniques that are most congenial and most natural to you for keeping your attention focused where you've decided it belongs, which is on this search for an identification with the divine presence.
Thank you, Brother
Thank you, Harma.
Thank
Anything else from anyone?
Hari Om Shankaraji.
Yes, Bala.
I think that helps me is, early in the morning just to read 1 or 2 pages of gospel,
Yes.
then sit at the meditation and just keep on chanting the mantra.
Yes. Well,
That helps me slowly and slowly.
Thank you, Balaji. That is exactly what the point of Diksha is. To give you this very convenient and very appropriate for you way of being with the divine in the form of Shabda Brahman, Brahman in the form of sound. And there is power in this mantra. There's real power there. And so, and it's spontaneous. It's not something that you have to drag in the power from outside. No, it comes from within the seed words that are in the mantra itself. Thank you, Bola. Yes, exactly. And what you said about reading a couple of pages of the gospel every morning, that or any other book, but of course, those of us whose heart is wed to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Vivekananda, Raja Maharaj, we take delight in reading the gospel because we feel in the presence. It enhances our relationship with these beings. The gospel, of course, is very powerful in that it was created by Sri Ramakrishna very deliberately to leave for us. I mean, if you read the story of how the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna came to be, it was done very deliberately by the master to leave these instructions behind for us. And not just instruction, but consolation, an illustration of the love and serviceful attitude that brought the divine presence here in the form of Sri Ramakrishna. As it says in the evening prayer, how great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. And all thine austerities were practiced for our sake. So the gospel is powerful for those who are followers of Sri Ramakrishna. Those who have some other Ishtadevata, some other focus for their aspirations and their spiritual quest, of course, there are other scriptures.
Brother Shankara,
Yes.
When I'm doing my spiritual practice, most of the time I chant the mantra that was given by Swami Yogeshananda when I was initiated.
Mhm.
But sometimes I revert to Thakur's mantra, the generic mantra. Remember Thakur instead of my own mantra that was given to me. Is that okay? I mean,
Dear heart, you have been practicing long enough to where your mind will guide you. So just trust yourself. I mean, for me to say it's all right or not all right, it would be kind of preposterous. I mean, you have been practicing for many years. So we're told the mind becomes your guru after a time. And if you have any doubts at all, just lay them at the feet of Thakur Ma, and you'll receive whatever reassurance you need. Just, it may not happen the first time, but do it repeatedly and something will come back. But in terms of all right, it's not for me to say.
but they both won.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, dear. Not in the least. No need to push back. I'm saying, you decide. You decide.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone?
Shankaraji, if I may, actually,
Yes.
Swami Atmarupananda, the other day, he was talking about mantra japa on this one, because mother used to, when she was at the Dakshineshwar temple, almost like used to repeat the mantra almost like 1 lakh times a day.
Yes.
And the way he was saying that, see, in the beginning stages, it is walk. That means you chant outside. And the next step is, when you do it outside, your tongue moves, your vocal cord moves and everything. And the next step is Madhyama, where the mind repeats itself. But if you closely observe, still your vocal cord moves and your tongue moves.
Mhm.
That stops. That is where he says the next step is the Pashyanti, that is visualization. This is what mother used to do. That's why she was able to do 1 lakh times. So in other words, there is no movement. It just, you visualize whatever that is.
Yes.
Keeps on
For,
going.
for those of us who don't know that term lack, would you
Yeah.
tell us what that means?
1 lakh means 100,000 is
Yes.
lakh.
It seems inconceivable to us, but Mother affirmed that she did actually chant the mantra, or as Balakrishna just pointed out, she did this through visualization 100,000 times a day. Now that is going to achieve a huge result, as it did in her life. And this is what she said, and the master said it also, but she was even more explicit about it. When the divine being takes human form, they must overcome the tendencies of the mind to be distracted and the tendency of the body to not want to do things. This is why Christ said, "Be of good cheer, I have overcome the world." He affirmed that himself. And it's the exact same thing, at least it's from here, that's how it looks. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Balaji.
Brother Shankara, are you
Yes.
getting feedback?
No, I'm hearing you fine.
Okay. Sometimes, depending on the circumstances of the day, the mind just doesn't want to cooperate. I mean, even if we remember the different teachings that go in the witness state, release the thoughts, it just is so difficult. How to persist on those days?
Well, as it happens, during a time when I was coming to the Hollywood Temple every morning for morning meditation and japa and so on, I once remarked to Swami Sarvadevananda on just exactly what you're talking about. And I used the term mud mind. Mud mind. It was like slogging through thick mud. It just didn't seem like any. There was no joy in it. There was no bliss in it. It was just, slogging through mud mind. And the Swami said, rather sharply, he said, pay no attention to it. Just persist with your practice as best you can, and it will go away. And the explanation for it happening and it going away is given to us beautifully in a number of places in Vivekananda's teachings, but especially in his talk on Christ the Messenger. And it is the fact that universe as it manifests itself to us. And of course, we are one with that. It's not like we're watching it happen. We are watching it happen from the sense of the witness or Atman, but we are one with what is happening. The macrocosm reflects itself in the microcosm, as Swami Vivekananda says. It's a waveform. It goes down, it goes up. It goes down, it goes up. Each time, Vivekananda said, it goes down, it is gathering energy for an even higher up. So the vector, if you will, or the trend line for those people who know that term, is up, up. But in the moment, in any particular day, particularly when we're in one of those down phases, it's just almost unbearable sometimes, as you were alluding to. You just, I can't stand this. Well, you have a choice. You can desist, you can stop doing what you're doing, or you can push through. If you desist, that process of gathering energy will happen, according to Vivekananda, much more slowly. If you persist in your practice, just push along the gathering of the energy for the rising wave will happen more assuredly and more quickly. Does that answer it?
Yes, Brother Shankara. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for asking the question. It's anyone who says they don't experience that is either deceiving themselves or deceiving us. Anyone who says they don't experience those down periods, it's universe. This is what universe does.
I totally agree with
Often, Shankaraji.
you.
Very good.
So
Very
even after 19 some years of practice, I still get that mud mind every now and then.
Oh yes. Oh
Just
yes.
back again, pull it back, just like he said. You get distracted and then you bring it back again and again and again. That's the only,
Just as Swami Sarvadevananda says,
exactly.
pay no attention to it. And he said it rather sharply.
Totally
Pay
agree.
no attention to it.
Thank you so much.
Just persist in your practice. And
Personally, for me, sometimes, Brother Shankar, I just end up just picking up the book, like, Thakur's books or Mother's books, instead of when my mind is not helping me with the meditation, I just resort to reading,
Well,
that's.
whatever, as I said, Nira, you've been practicing long enough that you can trust your mind to decide what to do. You can have a great faith in yourself. So if that's what works for you, to keep you recollected, to keep you focused, that's fine. So by all means. Bala, did you say something at one point also?
No, all I said is, it happens quite often,
Yes.
of mind, but I say this is part of the gunas that is acting. And recently, I just heard also about the open eye meditation, where if I feel that kind of thing, just go out into the yard, look at the flowers and say, hey, this is all, Bhagavan's Leela. Something to that effect. Bring my thought process back into the center.
Yes, exactly. And Swami Swahananda, at one point, this was, I don't know, maybe almost 30 years ago now, said, chart it. Keep a diary of it, keep a log of it. You'll see there's a regularity to how it comes and goes. And he even alluded to the fact that it has to do with the psychological weather, the psychic and psychological weather that's represented in one form by what we refer to as astrology. So it's not, there's no mystery to it. It is a reflection, as you said, of the gunas, which are a reflection of the operation of the universe. That's how the universe operates according to the system that we're taught from the Sankhya / Sanatana Dharma. The 24 cosmic principles, as Sri Ramakrishna agreed, exist.
The one technique that I've also found that helps me on those mud mind days is to write the mantra, of course, in an erasable board so that it's not out in the open. So I write it several times and then I erase it.
That's a beautiful way to do it. Swami Prabhavananda's Sevak, the monk who helped take care of him, ultimately came to be known as Swami Krishnananda. When Swami Krishnananda left the body, there were a group of us who worked on unpacking all of these steamer trunks that he had left. And in those steamer trunks were those little reporters' notebooks, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. Nobody ever counted. Hundreds of them. On every page, on both sides, was written simply Jai Sri Ramakrishna. So this was one of his techniques for staying focused when he needed to be focused in some way. Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Sri Ramakrishna. Now imagine, those little reporters' notebooks, they have 50 pages in them, something like that. They're wire bound at the top, flip over the pages. Every page, both sides, hundreds of those books. It was, even now, it makes my scalp prickle to think about it. Thousands of other wonders we found in those trunks also. It became the Archives Project. You can if you go to the Hollywood Center, you can ask to see the archives. It's really quite impressive. Anything else, dears? Okay. Those of you who begin to meditate will think that you're getting worse. That's because until you meditate, you don't realize the nature of your mind. When you learn to meditate, you will begin to face yourself, and, as it were, the ink begins to ooze out. You're pouring the clear water in, the ink begins to ooze out. This is not self-analysis or psychoanalysis, but as you pour the clear water, the ink comes out. If you self-analyze or psychoanalyze, memory comes into play and creates another impression. But meditation regularly practiced clears the mind, which becomes more and more attached to God. Why does it more and more become attached to God? Because that's what you're discovering as you clear, as you clear away the debris that is covering this artesian well. Then you discover, oh my goodness, first a trickle, then a small stream, ultimately the flood. And that's what the Swami alludes to now. And then sweetness comes, and you love to think of God. As long as there is constant recollectedness, and you love to think of God, at long last, there is constant recollectedness. When that happens, prana arises. Then,
Actually, it is prajna, Brother Shankara.
prajna arises. Okay. When that happens, prajna arises. Prajna is the knowledge of Brahman. Thank you, Ima, because I was puzzling over what that was.
You're welcome.
The problem of overcoming the world sometimes overwhelms us. Amen. The problem of overwhelming the world sometimes overwhelms us. How is it possible to overcome the world? Somebody hurts us and we feel pain and suffering. Somebody is pleasant to us and we are happy. But where is the happiness? And where is the hurt? Where is the hurt feeling? It is our mind, in our own mind. We are reacting. All this is in your mind, not outside yourself. How different is this world to each of us? We live in worlds of our own. A Christ or Buddha or a Ramakrishna live in joy and bliss without tribulations. I have seen such people who have overcome the world by conquering their own mind. They declare, quote, "From joy springs this universe, in joy dwells this universe, unto that joy goes back this universe." Taittiriya Upanishad. But this is exactly what was told to Julian of Norwich by Christ himself, according to her testimony. If you read her book, I've forgotten the title, but just look up Julian, Julian, of Norwich, Norwich. And she describes her life as an anchorite nun, living in a little hut outside a church in Norwich, England, and how she prayed for Christ to come and tell her the nature of reality. And it's virtually this same sentence or this same paragraph, only he said, love. From love springs this universe. In love dwells this universe. Unto that love goes back this universe. She did not know anything, I'll guarantee you, about the Taittiriya Upanishad. So this is a truth that we can discover. And it seems so unlikely to us, as the Swami says. The struggle can sometimes overwhelm us. But he goes on to assert, God is Ananda, bliss, joy, pure consciousness, and immortal life. Another translation of Ananda is love. This God, eternal life, is not separate from you. It is abiding in you. I'm going to repeat that again. This God, eternal life, is not separate from you. It is abiding in you. And note the word abiding. That means it's always there and does not change. That's what abiding means in that context. Without that presence, you cannot think or breathe or live. In the Gita we read, because of ignorance, there are desires, cravings, restlessness of the mind. Each one of us attempts to find God, but we are restless and seek satisfaction in the outside world. How do we pray? To something way above, if we pray at all. Whereas he is the inner guide. He is the soul of our soul. It is not possible to meditate without the understanding that he is within you. You may be intellectually convinced of it, but that does not help. This ignorance this wrong identification is something that is direct and immediate. In order to free ourselves from it, in order to free ourselves from it, we have to have another direct and immediate experience. And the joy of that is the direct and immediate experience we have after practicing enough is much more powerful than the direct and immediate experience of the outside world. Dear hearts, I have to take a medication called Lasix. And it is a medication that forces you to use the restroom. It's to take the load off my heart, the load of water off my heart. So I have to go and do that now. So we can either end this session now, which is not my preference, or you can wait for me to come back, which will be several, probably 10 or more minutes, because of the way it is when you're, just turning 80. So if you talk among yourselves, or just sit and be silent for that length of time, I'll cheerfully come back. But there's no way for me to avoid going to the restroom now. So we'll just see who's here when I get back. And of course, you can talk among yourselves. As they used to say, when they'd say to the soldiers, at ease, smoke them if you got them, talk among yourselves. I'll be back.
I'll be happy to go first. I think what the Swami said about, in the beginning, it almost seems worse. And I identify with that because it's like my small eye. When we are in the beginning stages, this constant conflict between my so-called personality, the little I, what it was and what it is, and where it needs to be in order to become a more efficient or pure hearted spiritual aspirant. So that conflict sometimes is very painful, especially when there are certain long ingrained characteristics that are hard to change quickly. So I'm glad to hear that he said it is difficult, because sometimes it is very frustrating when that happens, that I'm actually getting worse, because I get more stressed and more anxious because I'm not able to bring myself in alignment with what should happen. So if any of you have any thoughts.
This is Katrina, and I've been there too. And so what I've learned to do is to be gentle with myself. I think about the statement that was made in terms of just 1 ounce of practice makes a big difference, even if I don't think it does. I've learned more to accept that. Okay, I missed the mark this time, and just get back on, kind of like the easy button. You take 1,000, you step off and you step back on. We can always step back on. And so that's been my approach. And I've just learned to be more gentle with myself. Say, okay, got to get back on track again. And that has helped me.
Also, I think, first of all, Swayam, thank you for sharing that, because that's difficult to share. And that's something that I think all of us struggle with. But just trying to remember that every part of me is God. There is nothing in me that isn't God. And that every thought, this is not unique to me, but or original with me, every thought is an innocent step along the path. And that goes along with what Katrina was saying about being really compassionate with yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate both yours and Katrina's wisdom, sharing the wisdom. Sometimes it's hard to be kind to yourself because you just wanted, the change to happen, and you're okay for a while, and then the samskaras rear its head again and to try again. So it's good to have this forum to share,
Yes.
you know. I'm never one to shy away from, I think Haima knows from the other forums that we've been, I just lay myself bare. So I think that's the only way to learn.
That's good, Swayam, that you always are very honest. You're very honest on that. And we all struggle with that. Even after 19, 20 years of practicing, I still get those. You just have to keep pulling the thoughts back again to that, go to the path. So there is no other easy way. It doesn't come overnight. Yeah. I'm still probably at the bottom of the step of illuminating myself, still after many, many years. So there's no easy secret to it. The key is the mantra, and the meditation opens the door to our wisdom. That's what I found out. So I think it happens slowly, like Swami say and Brother Shankar says. Thanks for sharing. I like the gentleness of Katrina's mentioning. Be gentle to yourself. I think that's what we all need to be. Thank you so much.
Another thing I would say is that now that society is starting to open up a little bit, I personally am finding myself in situations with dear family members and dear friends who aren't, part of this type of community, and know I have this kind of spiritual thing that I do. But to them, it's more like something that you would do kind of part time, kind of, this is not, it's just one aspect. And, so I'm finding myself being encouraged to kind of be more in the world. Wouldn't it be nicer if you were in a couple? Wouldn't it be nicer if and it, it's hard, what should I say? This is what I really want to do. It all goes back to Brother Shankara's what deserves my attention. But most people are not going to agree with what we would think deserves our attention. And when I slip away from that, I feel bad about myself. I'm like, oh, darn it, So it's sort of like what you're saying, Swayam. But it comes back. It is the waveform. It is so the waveform. Because then when it comes back, you're like, oh, phew, thank God, thank God. This is like, oh, it's so much better than that other thing was. So it's just a process, and it's a hard one, and we have to give ourselves so much grace.
Yeah, I like what you said about there's nothing in us that's not God. Recently, I've been doing the Karma Yoga class through the Vedanta Life Academy and reading Swami Tyagananda's and Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. It is so hard. Sometimes Swami Ji can be so, he's so, what should I say, uplifting and powerful at times, and sometimes he'll push you to the edge, when he says that treat everybody as God. And you serve them, you don't just help them. And that's hard. I mean, it's hard. But I guess we have to keep trying, like you said.
I think though, if you ask too much of yourself all at once, in my case, I just started, I get to the point where I kind of rebel in my head and my heart. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this.
I agree.
So, I mean, I think the writings of Swamiji are really tough in terms of what they ask of us. And I don't necessarily put myself there because I'm the kind of person that wants to try to do whatever anyone tells me to do. And I don't think I should put myself there at this point. You have to be just sort of like, okay, we're going to be in pre-nursery school. You're fine. Just keep, learn how to use the scissors and maybe color lines. And you're fine. Just keep at it.
Thank you for that. Similar feelings and experience.
Especially when you're talking about the Karma Yoga, it is not easy at all to practice it, because this is Vivekananda says, even though you think you are doing it without any motivation inside, but there is always, if you keep on digging back into it, you do see some motivation somewhere. Hey, maybe this is what helps me. This might, something or the other that comes. If I help these people, maybe, something or the other. This is where you have to keep on digging until you get over onto it. And Karma Yoga is not an easy thing at all.
Yeah. In addition to the hidden motive, sometimes there is no love. I mean, we do it, like he says, don't do it mechanically, you have to love, but that love is hard. You do it more as a duty, and he says not to do it as a duty. You have to do it with love, and that is, again, a big
It's a
step.
big ask.
But I think all these things, by just keep on practicing all the 4 yogas together, it will come one day. I don't know when that one day is, but I'm sure it would come to all of us.
Let me ask this question, because as we talk, I'm thinking, when we talk about doing it and practicing, exactly what are we talking about? Because I was thinking that it's about just keeping God and that's the term I use, the infinite, in the forefront of my mind. So what are we talking about when we're talking about practicing it? What are we doing?
As far as I know, this is what I try to just keep on everything with what Shankara says, Godward turn. Think about whatever you are doing, please try to remember the God in the beginning of whatever your work is, and try to do it at the end of that thing, whatever the results are. And then in the, there is a chant in the Sanskrit, all whatever I do, the karma, it all belongs to you. I'm not the doer. This is what I try, it's very difficult even those things to remember at every second, but this is what I try and try and try.
Okay. All right.
I think it depends on which of the 4 paths you are inclined towards, because the one who's more attracted to the Jnana Yoga part, then it's about reflecting on the who am I, and that what we are experiencing is not the reality. So using the 3 states, waker, dreamer, deep sleep, or so many other ways to analyze that we are not the body, mind, and the letting go of the little I, or knowing that the little I has no connection to the one I. That's also another part of the practice, I guess. So, and then, of course, if you go the Raj Yoga path, then it is the do's and don'ts and the further steps. So, I think everything is to me, everything is part of the practice. So I do depending on what appeals to me on a certain day.
Exactly. That's because I don't think there is any demarcation, because even Jnana Yoga, even though Vivekananda, everybody says he's the staunch Advaitin and the the Jnana Yoga, but he said himself, inside is all bhakti.
Hmm.
Unless you develop the devotion, the other things also doesn't come easily. Like, for example, you are saying karma yoga. To practice the karma yoga, you have to do it with love. What is love? It is devotion.
Yeah.
I think the yogas are tools to be used to assist you in you having the realization of God in yourself. And that is the goal for me, to recognize and to realize God in each one of us. That's it for me. Very
No,
simple.
that is true, because all these yogas, what is the ultimately helps you in the sense, the moksha and whatever that is, you get that peace of mind, and it transforms your mind. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, you develop that the emotion. It's not the emotion of, oh, it's nothing. No, you start thinking about it and say, oh my God, what is it? Is there any way I could help, or is there any way I can just shed a tear? So that change in emotion, the transformation is, that's all. These paths would help. That leads you into the love. Actually, the last sentences, what he's saying, bliss and joy and all those things, that is God.
Robert, you have an additional tool, your music. I was reading this poem from Saint Catherine of Siena. And if you all are okay, I'll just read it. It's a short poem. The title is Only If You Join Me. One more song tonight, okay? But only if you join me. Once, when I was sad, I said to a kind old priest, have you learned any secrets to unburden the heart? And he responded, hum a favorite melody. Wine always rises to the top of oil. So I thought that's beautiful, because yes, when you start singing, I mean, even just Hare Ram, Ram Ram, in some kind of a tune, it just does lift you up. So music is just so awesome.
I found the thing that gets in your way is fear of getting it wrong.
Mm.
And getting it wrong is a part of this whole thing. It's a very important part. You have to get it. I tell my piano students, you have to get this thing wrong before you can get it right. Because if you don't get it wrong, then you don't know what right is.
Exactly. You're right, Robert.
Yeah. And it's a step. Getting it wrong is an important step. If I had a student that didn't get it wrong, I would be wondering what's going on here. Because once you get it wrong, well, I'll say it this way: getting it wrong is just as important, if not more important, than getting it right. Because if you don't know what not to do, you don't know what to do.
Robert, Brother Shankar here.
Yeah, that's good, Robert. Thank you.
So thank you.
And that's why
Yes.
Vivekananda said that he was glad that he made every mistake he ever made, because of what he learned from those mistakes. And he became what he became as much as Robert just pointed out, as much because of the mistakes as by what he got, so to speak, right. So he exulted, literally exulted in the mistakes and said, we must not be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, this is what I was about to say. Vivekananda says, fall 1,000 times, but you get up and move on.
Right. We fall 1,000 times, we rise 1,001 times. So I think that this was very capably carried forward. I could overhear a little as I came back in. So not a whole lot to add. We can start next week with the phrase, so what is the way? Anything else from anyone before we wrap it up?
I just appreciate the discussion we had and everybody's input. I feel so much more lighter now after all that.
Well, you know, this is exactly what is meant by going forward together, learning the art of practicing this art of spirituality together, studying, learning, going forward. When we come back this year, maybe not immediately, but sometime during the year, there will be a sign that goes up on the wall that says, "Come, let us go forward together." And thank you for saying that, Swayam. And I'm sure there was wonderful discussion among you. As was pointed out in the resident minister's report, this Sunday, we had the annual meeting on the 16th. The divine speaks through every one of you, because that's who's there.
I
So,
think this group, again, in this forum, there's a whole lot of openness and honesty. In those other, people tend to hide sometimes. Here, there's so much openness. I think that goes a long way towards helping in the learning process and progress, making progress.
thank you, Swayam. And I could not agree more. And people have discovered that among such people as come to Saturday morning, Tuesday, Wednesday evenings, whatever it is, there is safety. There is the safety of being kindred spirits, walking arm in arm on the path. As Ram Dass said, well, come right down to it. What are we doing? We're just walking one another home. So, what a joy. What a joy to be arm in arm with you. And on July 4th, we can actually be face to face again. Won't that be fun?
Yeah.
And any of you who choose to come, there will be 2 Seva Saturdays, June the 19th and June 26th, to get the center all spiffed up. We're doing a good job of starting to get it back into shape after being somewhat neglected during the pandemic, but there's a lot more to be done. So thank you all for coming this morning. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. May you have peace of mind. Go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Father and Mother. So until the next time we meet, which could be as early as tomorrow morning, in which tomorrow morning we'll discuss the simple secret of centering prayer, that Christian form of contemplation and meditation. So, any final thoughts, anything from anyone?
Shankaraji, is there anything I can do this next Friday?
Oh, next Friday. Yes, you could do Arati next Friday.
Okay.
Absolutely, you can do Arati. Probably Saturday too.
Okay.
Can you do Arati both Friday and Saturday?
Yes.
I might be able, I might be ready to do Arati on Saturday, but I don't know what they're going to tell me in terms of what I should do. So
Okay. Yeah.
this is a relatively simple procedure, but they do put you under,
Anesthesia.
anesthesia, and they do cut a hole in you, and
Yes.
monkey around with your veins
Yes,
and so on.
Under the clavicle, they make a cut.
Right. So the doctor says he's so proud of this machine that I think that the one that he showed me, the man who was for many years the head of cardiology there, Dr. Pandya, he's now no longer the head. He's still a cardiologist working there. But he says that this Dr. Iravanian, as they pronounce it there, Dr. Iravanian is their mad scientist. That he has patented 3 devices during the 10 years he's been with Kaiser. So that's quite a remarkable thing. He's a biomedical engineer as well as a cardiologist. So that when he showed me that little machine, he didn't say that he was the guy who had authored that particular version, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was. He seemed awfully proud of it. Not in a bad way, in a very cheerful, uplifting way. So I'm looking forward to getting that done. What he said was that in 70% of the cases, there is some improvement. And in an additional 10 to 15% of the cases, there is really significant improvement. So there's 85 chances out of 100 that there will be improvement. And that's pretty good odds. That's, if you're a betting person, that you'd bet on those odds. So until we meet again, and I'm reasonably certain that I'll be together enough by Sunday morning to facilitate the discussion in our open forum on Bhakti. But I don't think there will be a Saturday class next week. You'll know in the newsletter whether that's going to happen, because I will have read the instructions in detail and even talked to the cardiology nurse who is assigned to this particular task. So any last thoughts or any last comments from anyone? All right, dears.
Thank you, Brother Shekar.
And
Thank
well, thank you all, and thank you for being who you are and how you are. And what a remarkable group. So until tomorrow morning, for those of you who join us, Jai Ma, Jai Pa, and Jai Jai, the divine presence in all of its forms, which is represented right there. All right, dears. Until soon.
Namaste. Hari Om. Namaste.
Hari Om,
Bye-bye.
Hari Om.
Bye-bye.